Start recording. So we got a cool one today because here's the deal. A lot of people come into this industry. If you're anything like me, I came in with a good chunk of sales experience. Mike, so did you. Some people come in with no sales experience. When you're first coming in, you're juggling everything from leads to, your money flow. You're trying to get the sales process down. And even for people who are experienced salespeople, that initial sales process, you're juggling the apps, getting people approved, like being able to focus on a simple sales process with final expense. Mike, it helped me so much. And so I've never hid the fact when people ask me, Gabe, how'd you start? I'm like, dude, my first 3 months was final expense before I got into anything else. But here's the thing that sucked at that time. And you experienced this too, Mike. Dude, we were all in person. And so the cost of a final expense lead locally was like $35 because not only were you trying to get one where like they would answer the door because you had to go meet them, but you had to get them within a 50-mile radius. Well, dude, now we have these final expense leads, which are essentially the same quality. Like they weren't super high. It was like name, phone number, and I knew they'd filled it out, but maybe they filled a lot of stuff, so they gave me some pushback at the beginning. Dude, we're getting those for $3. And the ability for agents to convert. I mean, I know we got two stories, Mike, you're going to be diving in today, but this is just such a good way for agents to start. It's such a good way for agents to focus on profitability. I think both the agents have way over a 10x in their lead spend to what they wrote. So, Mike, I'm going to spotlight you, and
Okay.
then I know you got two people, so whatever order, I'm gonna let you take it away, dude.
All right. Perfect. Let me find him real quick here. What's up, Armin?
What's up, Mike?
How you doing, dude?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So here, let me just real quick. Add pin. All right. So dude, we've been talking last couple of days, like with working these cheap final expense leads, right? You came out of the gate just swinging. You had four sales in your first, I think 80 leads that you had contact or called, right? For
Yep.
4K. Just obviously crushing them already. I think working these leads, from what I've seen, there's the biggest thing with agents that are first working at final expense leads, especially these, are getting hit with objections. Can
Yeah.
you kind of go over the top three, four objections that you're getting as an agent working these leads?
Yeah. So I mean, for me, the first thing that I'll obviously hear, and probably you'll hear it a lot too as well. I mean, people are going to be like, I'm not interested, right? So I'm not interested. I was saying that a little bit earlier to you. For me, it's a smoke screen, right? Because
Yeah.
nobody's interested. Nobody wants to get sold, right? So, as soon as I hear, I'm not interested, I'm right to it. Sometimes I'll even not even acknowledge it, right? I'll just be like, yeah, I mean, most people aren't interested, and then just get right back into the script. But if they're really on that, like, I'm not interested, I'll just be, totally understand that, Mike. I mean, a lot of people feel that way, when they first hear about it, and, life can move fast, and money can be tight. I get it. Now, I mean, and then I go into isolating it as far as if they're very on, I'm not interested, I'll be like, just so I'm clear and respectful of your time, Mike. I mean, if this had no cost at all and, setting it up was completely free, I mean, wouldn't this be something you want to have in place to protect your family and, potentially help with any, sort of final expenses you may occur or, potentially build some long term wealth for your family? Right. So, like, if they say no to that, for me, it's like, okay, they're probably really not interested. I'm going to have to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what the real objection is because it's not the money, right? There's something else there. So if they say no, then I'm digging a little bit deeper to kind of try and figure out what the real objection is. If they are saying yes, then I pivot right into, well, I mean, Mike, I mean, most people that I do work with and, have, protection set up for themselves and their family. I mean, a lot of times, they'll start small and they can scale up later. So, I mean, if I had something to, show to you that, would only cost you $2 to $3 a day, I mean, would that be something that you'd be open to reviewing? And I mean, more than likely, they're going to say yes, because now you're saying, and you can even add on like a little twist to it. I mean, Mike, $2 to $3 a day. I mean, that's less than your morning cup of coffee. Am I right? And like
Yeah.
your main thing is you just want to start getting them into the pattern of yes, yes, yes. Like as soon as you get like 3 yeses, right? That's when you can really start digging deep, building more value in what you're offering to them, and then start tying them into the close. I mean, you know, a lot of times, you're gonna run into these objections like that. They're all smoke screens at the end of the day. So like I was telling you, Mike, I mean, there's 5 objections that are big objections in pretty much all sales industry. So, it's I'm not interested, I can't afford it, right? There's lack of need and interest, which is kind of tied to the I'm not interested, right? There's timing, because you'll get a lot of people that will be like, oh, right now is a bad time, I'm at work, right? So like there's a few scenarios that you could do for that, right? For me personally, if I have somebody that's really, I could tell over the phone, like they're at work and they're not going to be able to focus on the call, I'll just try to be like, well, I normally kind of run by appointment anyways, Mike. So, what's a better time I could reach out? And then I kind of go into the appointment setting script as far as like, getting a few details from them, making sure, that they obviously, understand like what I'm calling about, what we're booking this appointment for. And then I followed up with, out of the respect of my schedule, Mike, I'm going to send you a confirmation text over. Can you just respond to that text message just to make sure that I know that you're going to be available for that call, right? So that's kind of how I do those. If it's a timing. Now, if it's not a timing where they're busy, right, and it's more just they're trying to smoke screen me again with, right now is not the right time, I'm like, well, I mean, I totally get that, Mike. A lot of times, the timing is never going to be right, right? So what I'll try to explain to them and just break it down is, I mean, just so you know, Mike, if even you waiting a couple months, that can increase your cost of insurance, due to age and, potentially changing your health rating. And that could even make you ineligible for getting approved for any life insurance, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know that, and you can follow it up with, I mean, so it's best that you lock in some protection, whether, it's minimal, and we scale it up later, like back to the $2 to $3 a month. And then you could follow up. I mean, like my follow up to that is, I mean, wouldn't it make sense if, we started something small while, you're in great health, and we can scale it up later when timing's better, that way you don't you lose your eligibility or benefits tied to your age. Right. So I have a lot of things, is like, I have some notes down. Right. So for me, I'm just trying to remember everything and be able to express my sales process as well. And, if there's things that people are struggling with as far as closing deals, right there, that could be more of an application process. So I don't know if people are
I
getting.
think so. There's 2 more objections, right? That I'm obviously not interested. It seems to be like the top 3. I feel like are not interested, right? Which that one just covered. The second one I hear is like I didn't fill it out. Can you kind of
Yeah.
go over your response to that one, your rebuttal?
So I hear that a lot too. Yep. And what I literally say to that is, I'm like, it's another smoke screen. I'm like, no problem, Mike. I mean, this actually happens a lot more than you think. Sometimes it gets submitted through a referral or, a Facebook form or a senior benefits ad. And, my job today, Mike, is just to make sure, you get the information you need, and what's real and what's not, and, answer any questions you may have. Sound fair enough? Right.
Yeah.
So more than likely they're going to say, oh, okay. Like they're going to kind of just bend or kneel or whatever you want to say. And they're going to let you to go through the process a little bit. And then that's where you can, go back into the script, keep building your value, figure out what the reason is, right? Discover the pain or the emotional part of why they were even looking into coverage. And then from there, you can just continue on with closing the deal. Right. So that's how I handle that objection pretty spot
Love
on.
it.
So,
I think another one that I've heard recently too with I didn't fill it out is honestly, I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
yeah,
Then they from there just a nice little like you're acknowledging it, but then you
yeah,
like quickly move on, right? And then like, hey,
yeah,
what was the reason why you'd fill the form out? Who were you trying to protect with this coverage?
yeah,
And get them to like, because even all these objections, right, are just trying to throw you off. So if
yeah,
you're a new agent working these, like, don't like let those ones. They're basically
yeah,
asking you like, what do you want, right? Like,
yes,
they're just
yes,
gonna throw something out at you, right?
yeah,
So good.
yeah.
The third one that I'm hearing right now is I already took care of it. How are you handling that one?
So a lot of times when I hear I've already taken care of it, that's another smoke screen. And a lot of times they didn't actually already take care of it, right? So they're, oh, I've already have this taken care of. Okay. And I'm just like, so Mike, I mean, what carrier did you end up getting set up with? Right. And as soon as they, they tell me something, right? Well, you can verify it. So us as agents, we kind of know what is real and what's not. So if they tell me that they have $100,000 in whole life and the guy's 72 and he just got that set up a couple weeks ago, that's not real, and you can, what you do by that, if they're staying firm on that's what they have set up, then you got to basically tell them and explain to them, well, I mean, that's not real because this is what is real, because I've heard that a couple times where it was just a total BS policy that they just made up on the spot. A guy said to me he had $100,000 in coverage through New York Life and it was whole life or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I don't think New York Life even offers, $100,000 whole life policy. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they do. They might, but I'm pretty sure they only offer term. So I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they only offer term. But a lot of times it's just another smoke screen, and even if they do say that they have something, you can tie it into, well, I'm actually contracted with New York Life, or I'm actually contracted with XYZ, so that's kind of how I handle those objections. I mean, I don't get them as much as the I'm not interested, or I don't remember filling it out. I get them, very briefly. And then, I kind of just breeze past it and then I just get back right into the script. So
what's kind of your dialing pattern to best get a hold of these people? Like what's kind of your process to get in contact with them?
So as far as the leads go, I mean, I have a pretty decent size, batch of leads. So for me, I dial through them kind of in sections. So if I'm going to tackle like 100 leads, I'll hit 100 of them in the morning and then I'll hit 100 of them in the evening. And then when I'm calling the leads as well, don't be afraid to call them 3 times. Like every single time I call a lead, unless it's a disconnected number, I'm hitting that lead 3 times and I'll let it ring out 3 times too. So I mean, I'll hit every lead, 3 times unless it's a disconnected number. And then, another thing I do as well is I'll always put notes, even if it's somebody that told me they were not interested and they hung up on me, I'm still putting notes next to the lead because it was more than likely it was a timing thing. I called them right in the morning or whatever, and, they were not ready to have a conversation. But you can always reach back out to these people in a week, in 2 weeks, put them through your CRM, have some texting going out, something like that. And I mean, you'll get in touch with more people doing that as well, because it's a lot of times it's always a timing thing as well. You got to call people at the right time when they're ready to have a conversation. So, but yeah.
Let's kind of dive into your sales process. I think that's really good for agency. We were kind of talking about that earlier. If you just want to kind of do a quick role play, kind of what it sounds like when you're going through the sales process with a client.
Okay. You want me to go from top to bottom?
Yeah,
okay.
Please.
So I'll just start it off. So I'll be like, hey, Mike.
Hello.
Hey, Mike. It's Armand here with Pinnacle Life Group. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. How was your Memorial Day weekend? I'll put something in there just to kind of, add a little bit of a connection, right?
Yeah.
And then, I'm just right into it. I'm like, Mike, I don't really usually make these calls personally, but, your request came through and, I just want to make sure you didn't get missed. So, with that being said, Mike, I mean, I'm just the licensed field underwriter here, assigned for your request for some state approved final expense insurance here in the state of Florida. And, I'm closing out some files. I don't see any updates or notes here on yours. So, you mind if I just verify a few things to see if you'd qualify? And then as soon as I say that and they give me a response, I'll be like, can you verify your address for me? I have it as 123 Main Street, right? And then the second one, I'm right into getting them to do something for me, right? So I'm like, are you somewhere where you could grab a pen and a piece of paper for me, Mike? I can wait. And then more than likely, they'll go get a pen and piece of paper. And that also gives you a little bit of time to gather yourself and, get your thoughts and everything right as well. Once they have that coverage, I follow up with, so Mike, is this coverage just for you, or, should I include a spouse or a partner in this?
Just me.
Okay, awesome. And before we get into it, Mike, let me just give you my information just so you know who exactly you're talking to and you're dealing with. Okay.
Okay.
So just, if you could just write down my first name. So my first name is Armand. I'm with Pinnacle Life Group. Let them write it down. And then right after that, I'm like, now my state license number for you, that's going to be how you can verify me. It's essentially like my social security number for life insurance. That's going to be 2115-3933. Let them write it down. And then right under that, if you guys have your digital business card or anything like that, you can tell them, hey, I'm about to shoot you over a text message with my digital business card, which will have some more information on there about me for you. And just to confirm with you, Mike, is this the best phone number and email that I have here on file to share information with you while we're on the call? So I verified those things with them too. So I build some more trust and credibility there. And then basically I go down into the discovery and the why of why we did this request. And then, so I'm like, Mike, let me ask you this. I mean, what was, kind of going on in your life when you submitted that request? I mean, what made this, feel important to you to take some action today?
One of my friends had just passed away. So I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that, I didn't leave my family in the same situation.
Yeah.
Coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a real common reason that people do look into this, Mike. I mean, can I ask you, I mean, who would be left picking up the pieces if, God forbid, something were to happen to you tomorrow? What's their name?
My daughter.
Your daughter? Okay.
Yeah.
And Mike, I mean, why is it important that you protect your daughter specifically?
I just want to make sure that, again, she's not stuck. Because she'd be inheriting everything. So I just want to make sure she wouldn't be stuck with the funeral expenses.
Okay. And would you want to leave something else behind her as well, as far as just covering the funeral expenses?
Probably just that. Probably
Okay.
the funeral expenses. I have some other stuff set aside for her.
Okay. And I don't want to waste your time, Mike, or quote you something you wouldn't qualify for. Do you currently have life insurance?
I don't.
Okay. And I mean, have you ever been declined or you just never got around to it?
Yeah, I just never got around to it.
Okay.
I figure I'm
And
getting older now, so I should probably look at getting it in place.
got it. So you just kind of want to get the house in order?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you working, retired on Social Security?
Right now I'm on Social Security.
Okay. And, Mike, is that income going into a bank account or like a direct express card?
A bank account.
Okay. So something I want to touch on as well with these leads, that question right there is going to tell you what carrier that you can go and actually quote them through, right? Because
Yeah.
if they say direct express, you're going to have to go through Transamerica or Liberty Bankers or a carrier that accepts direct express, right? But you having a bank account, you can quote them and go through any carrier, right?
Yep.
And then I follow up with that. I'm like, so this is your first time, actually really looking into this, or I say, have you looked into this before, or is this your first real step towards looking into some coverage, Mike?
It's my first time.
Okay. And I mean, here's what a lot of people don't know, Mike. I mean, there's three types of policies when it comes to life insurance. Now, I educate briefly, right? So I'm like, so that first type there, that's going to be called term. So it's cheap up front, Mike, but it does end and, there's no cash value and, there's no payout if you outlive it. Then I go right into the second one. I'm like, the second type is going to be accidental, Mike. And, that only covers accidents, not illness. Now, what you submitted a request for, Mike, it's whole life and final expense insurance. So, this is never going to expire. It does build a small cash value. It's not going to make you rich, but, there is some cash value there. And that rate, it never goes up. So, I mean, based on what you're trying to protect, Mike, I mean, which sounds like the smartest choice?
The last option, the permanent coverage.
Okay. And then right into there, I go into basically options and closing, right? So, I'm like, so based on everything you shared with me, Mike, I mean, there's some 3 smart fit options, with people in your shoes, they typically go with, and you still got that pen and piece of paper.
I do.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to have you write down gold, silver, bronze, right? So there's a couple ways you could run it. You could say 1, 2, 3, however you want to do it. I usually do gold, silver, bronze. And then I'm gonna be like, that gold option there, Mike, this is going to be $25,000 worth of coverage. It's going to be a monthly investment of $150 a month. And, what this coverage is going to be there for and what it's going to do for you is, I mean, well, one, it's going to cover any sort of final expenses that may occur if, God forbid, something were to happen to you, and it's going to leave some money behind for your daughter, a decent chunk of money behind for your daughter, right? And then option two, which I say is silver, that's always for me. I always say that's the state recommended amount, right? So I'm like, so this is going to be $15,000 worth of coverage. It's going to be for a monthly investment of $80 a month. And, you know, with this coverage, you know, it's going to cover pretty much just a basic burial for yourself. And, you know, it's not really going to leave any money behind there for your dog. And then the option three, which I always say is, I'll say bronze. So this is going to be your bronze option here, Mike. You know, this is always going to be the lowest that you could go with, not essentially the lowest, but for me, I usually do like a baseline of like 10,000. So I'll be like, this is $10,000 worth of coverage. You know, this is going to cover, you know, pretty much a bare minimum burial, just so that your daughter wouldn't have to come out of pocket for any sort of final expenses that may occur if, God forbid, something happens to you. And then I follow up with that with, now, Mike, I mean, you know, each one of these options of coverage, you know, they're lifetime coverage. You know, it's a locked in rate, and as well as a tax-free payout. And there is some cash value buildup, like I had mentioned. And then that last thing I want you to know, Mike, is it's 100% backed by me, licensed in the state of Florida, just because of the fact that if, God forbid, something happens to you, you know, I'm going to be the one direct to the insurance carrier that's going to put my foot on their neck to make sure your daughter gets paid out in a timely manner. Right. And then right after that, I'm like, so Mike, I mean, you know, which one of these feels like, you know, would give you that peace of mind, if that peace of mind you were looking for without really stressing the budget for you?
Yeah, probably the top option.
Okay, awesome. And then my close with it, which is getting into the e-app, right? Is I'll be like, so here's what we're going to do, Mike. You know, I'm going to submit your application, you know, to lock in the rate while it's available. Now, you know, this isn't a contract. It's just to see if you'll qualify. The insurance company, they're going to make the final call. So let's go ahead and get started. So can you just spell your first and last name for me? Boom, right into the e-app, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, e-apps, I don't know if people are going through the sales process and they're losing people in the e-app. I never go like, if I never start from the top of an application when I get into it. A lot of times I start from the bottom kind of and work my way up. So I'll do like, you know, phone number, email, best mailing address for you, height, weight, whatever you got to do. And then after I get those things and I get those confirms from them, then I'm like, okay, and now Mike, can you confirm your social with me for the medical background check? And like, if you work it that way, for me at least, you know, I don't really ever get pushback on socials or things like that, because I'm building that credibility first. I'm not just starting off the application with, did you get all that in the financial inventory? I'll touch on that in a second. So I don't really get pushback on the socials just because I'm not like asking it right off the rip. So like, I'm not like, we're going to transition to submit a request, right? And I'm not like, okay, can you confirm your social with me? Like, that's not the first question that I want to ask, because I've sold final expense in the past. And when I sold final expense in the past, I've learned that if you ask for the social right off the rip, a lot of times people are going to be like a little bit hesitant. And the one thing you don't want to do is have to say, can you confirm your social with me again? Right? You want them to just give it to you without any sort of pushback, because you'll get in that point where you're kind of losing some credibility there, because you're like now trying to push for the social, and then if they don't want to give you the social, then you got to move past the social. So that's why I work the applications, you know, the way that I work them.
Love it.
But
So we got to move on here in just a minute
Yeah.
to one other agent, but just kind of like guys to kind of do a quick rundown, right? So to contact him, he's dialing them 3 times, right? Super important with these leads to triple dial them every single time you're going through them. The first time, a lot of other people, they're just looking at their phones. Second time, they're like, okay, I don't really know who this is. The third time, they're like, I'm going to answer this, right? Because like it must be an emergency, right? So sometimes if you do get kind of like a ticked off client, I'm talking to Travis the other day. He just basically says, when he gets to someone who's ticked off, he'll just say, hey, sorry, when I tried calling, it was just going right to like voicemail. It's about while I have you on the phone and then go right into it, right? These people requested information. It's our job to try to protect them, and that's going to be your best chance of getting in contact with these and have an opportunity to sell them.
Yeah.
Also, as he's going through and he's working his process, he's leaving notes every time he makes a phone call. Every time it's important, guys, whether what time you dial, what the client says, because you're going to rework these leads a few times. So it's important to kind of like leave notes as you go through them. And then it just, guys, like I've heard 3 or 4 scripts now from agents that are killing it. They're all a little bit different. The sales process is super simple. You just got to
Yeah.
get past those first initial objections. And really, like I'm hearing like 3 that I'm really getting, not interested. I already took care of it, or I didn't fill it out. Once you get past those 3 initial objections, you're generally into the sales process.
Yeah.
I would say just from like, going through these a few times, guys, like sell yourself. Sell yourself as you're the best person to be able to take care of their family. They're getting a lot of calls, so you have to kind of like sell yourself, build a little bit of rapport with these clients. Besides that, it's a pretty simple process. It's whole life, it's permanent coverage, that's going to take care of their funeral expenses for their family. So, Armin, I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your success, dude.
Yeah.
Keep crushing it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you, Mike. And, anytime you guys need it, man, I'm willing to help. So,
Love it, bro.
all right.
Kill it, kill it. Adrian, what's up, my guy?
Hey, Mike.
Adrian, what did you off these FEX leads? What did you do last week? What did you submit?
So I submitted 14.
14, and it's like 8 9K got approved.
Yes.
Huge, dude. How many leads did you get in your lead batch?
So that was a batch of 100.
Batch of 100. So you basically what like 20x your money there, 25x your money. That's crazy, dude. Can you kind of just run real quick through your experience of working these?
So honestly, like the first week was kind of rough because I mean it was my first time going through them.
Yeah,
I think for me the sweet spot was finding people that already had it and just doing like a policy review on it. Some people wouldn't be down with it, some people would. So the people that would, I just made sure I did the most when it comes to providing value to them.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I was going through that. The first week I had a little bit like a little contact rate, not too good. I was calling them probably like 3 times, morning, afternoon, and then switching to mortgage protection just so I wouldn't really exhaust them because these people are
yeah,
getting calls constantly. Um, I made a big sale the second week. I was still working that batch. And like the people answered. I probably called them probably like 20 times last week, and they answered like nothing. Like they didn't see my numbers come in or anything like that. So that was super super simple. And well, yeah, I mean that was just it. Just dialing, grinding through them, triple dialing, like Armin said. That's definitely key for me. I was
yeah.
told like, hey, just focus on getting present. I was like, man, I'm not gonna get presentations if I don't get the dials in. So definitely triple dial these people. They're getting calls constantly, but you just gotta set yourself apart from everybody else that calls. A lot of it might be just healthcare. Those people trying to call them. So definitely set yourself apart for sure.
Love it. Guys, so again, just when you're working these leads, like people are gonna hang up, right? You got to understand it's a $3 lead, so it's just important. Like that's gonna happen. Nothing you can do about those ones. It's the ones that give you one of those main objections. Like get past it. A lot of it just by asking a question. So when I was calling these the other day, I already took care of it. So I'll be like, perfect. That's actually the reason I'm calling. Just so I can go ahead and close out your file, and you can stop getting these calls. What care did they end up putting you with? Oh, well, my son takes care of it. Okay, perfect. And what were you kind of who you're looking to protect with the coverage? And then from there, I'm already into the sales process, right? So just to get past that first initial objection, and I think you guys, it's a very simple sales process. It's one product that is looking to cover their cremation or their burial expenses. So, guys, just wanted to share a little bit of these guys' success this week. Keep crushing it. Any final questions before we get off for Adrian?
Yeah, how do you handle banking objections? Like after you already got social, all that other stuff, and pretty much done, and they're like, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable giving out my account number."
Honestly, I mean, since I'm just kind of working with mortgage protection as well, I kind of already preface it by, hey, and you'll be paying for the policy, correct? So I'm setting the correct expectations. I don't want, that's the last thing I want. I'm super scared of objections. So like I try to just get rid of them before we even get to that. So I just make it as smooth as possible. Hey, Mary, and you're going to be the one paying for the policy, correct? Now, I'm not using slick words or anything like that. You're straight up paying for the policy, correct? And they'll say yes. Okay, perfect. What's the name of the financial institution you want to place on this? And they'll just tell me right away. Obviously, if they'll give you objections on that after saying that, maybe you can kind of work it, but sometimes they're just not really wanting to commit. And then that's just a smoke screen at that point. But yeah, just kind of just being straight up, and you'll be paying for the policy, correct? That's how I handle it before we even get to the banking. That's how I ask.
Love it. Any other final questions here?
I think the last thing I think I'd be great for Mike for people to hear is just what should the expectation be as far as like, okay, I'm a new agent. How like just make it super simple. And this has been great. I think any new agents working these should rewatch this because this is so much content. But how many leads should I get? How should I work them? What should my expectation? How many deals should I write out of 100, leads or however many I should get? And then when should I get new leads?
Yeah. So for me, like if I'm a new agent, like I want as many leads as I can get my hands on. So for me, I would buy a batch of 250, just so I can give myself so much opportunity. That's probably what, like $500-600 for 250 fresh leads. And they get, I think on average, my agents get like 50 that come in per day, which is perfect amount to like work. And obviously they just come in. Sometimes they'll get more than that. But off a batch, I would say a batch of 100 as a brand new agent, you should close one or two. If you give yourself 250, you're probably going to minimally brand new close 4 or 5 deals if you're working them correctly. And then
Nice.
just buy them weekly. Have them new come in every week. You can go back and work those other 250. I know some people are using like auto dialers and using AI as far as the message and stuff like that. It's going to get more meat off the bone for you. But I think these are just kind of like the common practices that I'm seeing right now. Average close rates like 3 to 4% off these. And some of the top producers are closing more than that, but that's just on average for a new agent.
Yeah. And I mean that ROI, I mean the average final expense deal is usually what? 500-600, sometimes a little lower, sometimes significantly higher, as we've seen
Yeah.
with these guys. But I mean, either way, you're getting I mean, 5x honestly on these leads is a minimum.
Yeah. It just for 100, you're spending what, like 250 or to 300. So like one small deal out of 100, you're at least breaking even, which on average is the FBS agent, agent closed 4 or 5 off there, but he's a stud though. So
All right, guys. With Mike, Adrian, Armin, guys, thank you so much. This was a lot of great content. Guys, check this out later if you're just wanting to go over these scripts. The scripts are available on the website. So if you guys need, hop on there. And I think even on the StrongPoint website, right, they provide our script as well.
yeah.
All right, guys. God bless. Have a great day, everybody.